We are back, part two. We got the entire crew. We're gonna get to some intense discussions. We're gonna follow up with what we did last week. People, last week was pretty hot, but I think it's necessary for us to continue this conversation. Last week we started talking about, well, we asked the question, should white folks be afraid of Black history? I think most of us in the room agree that they probably should. But the reason, well, not even the reason, I'm thinking there's no reason for them to have to teach us, our Black kids, you know what I'm saying? So I think right now what we need to do is get into a further discussion about, why is it not being taught in schools? And why is it not being taught in schools? So I want to pose this question to all of you guys. What about the Z generation? There is a generation of people that came out of high school, I think it started in 2016. Those graduates now, you know what I mean? So I'm thinking between the 18-year-olds and the 35-year-olds. Where are they getting the history lessons? How are they going to get it? What's going to be the impact of them not having it? Let's start that conversation. I'm going to go to Sweetie C on this one.
So your question is, where are they getting their information from 18 to?
Where are they going to get it if they didn't get it in high school?
Well, some of them should be either going to college.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're saying they're limiting this discussion in high school, but they're not eliminating this discussion in college.
Right.
Also, I would also fall back on some of the parents.
Yep.
Should be teaching their kids the history and taking.
Because the parents should know it, right? You would think so, right?
It because they lived through it.
Right.
Because
Right.
even my mom, she experienced effects of slavery it hasn't gone away.
Right. Right. It just changes its form, right?
Somewhat,
Okay.
in some areas. So, yeah, and then hopefully they would research on their own.
Okay.
Because a lot of it is out there. Maybe they've gone through an experience themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, wait a second, what's really going on?
Right.
Hopefully they should already know
Right.
by now.
Jessica, what's the impact of not knowing our history?
The impact of not knowing our history is miseducation and misguidance. And also, if we don't know our history, that's why some of us trust our enemy, because we don't know how deceitful
Facts.
and dirty our enemy really is. So we think that we can trust them when in fact we truly can't.
Right.
So that's the biggest part for me. Is not about not knowing our history. That's why we continue to. We make strides, we get better, but I think we could get a whole lot further on if we quit allowing people into our communities where we can solve, where we can create our own solutions. Another impact that it has on us when we don't know our history is that we don't know how truly great that we are as Black people. A lot of us, we walk around and we just don't know the beauty that it is in being Black. It's a great thing to be Black. And a lot of us we don't see that because we don't understand America would be nothing without Black people.
So a lack of appreciation for our Blackness and our heritage,
Correct.
our history,
Mm-hmm.
has an impact on us as
Yeah.
human beings. Ken too, my brother. I'm kind of curious about, talking, just stay within that same group, that 18 to 35-year-old, right? They're not seeing history, at least true history, until they probably get in college, because now they're doing their own research, and they're talking to professors, and they're talking to people who actually walk the walk, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're getting there, and they're looking back, and I'm like, hold up, I didn't get this in high school, and then when I get to college, I'm meeting with people from other parts of the country, and they got it. Are they angry?
Some will be angry,
Yeah.
but it's more so that it's gonna be more a disappointment
Right.
that they didn't get it, and then they're gonna get to thinking like, wow, why they didn't get it,
Mm-hmm.
and it just started to raise a bunch of questions of, okay, like, man, like I'm in college, like why I didn't get this information in high school.
Right.
But to answer your question, they gonna be disappointed. I wouldn't say angry, but more so disappointed. They're gonna be disappointed in their parents. They're gonna be disappointed in more. I would say their parents more. It'll be shifted towards their parents more.
Right.
So, um, but it's gonna be disappointment. But to answer the question about where they're gonna get it from now,
Mhm.
like, it more so gonna have to come from, if it doesn't come from the home, it's gonna have to come from, social media or the
Right.
internet, like,
Which is watered down anyway.
yeah, it's gonna be watered down, it's gonna be shortened down to like memes and stuff like that.
Right.
It's gonna be
It's almost
microwave,
comical.
yeah.
It's not gonna be taken seriously.
Yeah, unless they get really serious and take the time to go read a book,
Mhm.
then they won't get it. If it doesn't come from the home, social media,
Mhm.
or the parents, that's the only way they're gonna get it moving forward because it won't be really taught in the high schools at all.
Right. Lucky, my brother,
The
you raised a scholar, man. Your daughter's a recent college graduate, is that correct?
Yep.
And she was getting this Black history
Yep.
all through her adult life, or her young adult life, right?
Yep.
So when she goes and she's talking to these other folks who didn't get it, how is she expressing that to them?
Oh, yes. They be kind of, she be kind of frustrated and upset.
Yeah.
She be kind of frustrated, I'm saying, man, it is what it is, but I had to explain to her what she needs to do with the information like this. She's taught to me now a lot of things that, you know what I'm saying, I've talked to her about when she was younger,
Right.
you know what I'm saying, that she didn't get it then, but she's starting to get it now.
Mhm.
And I broke it down to her, you know what I'm saying, basically, you know what I'm saying, transition of information.
Mhm.
I didn't tell you for you to get it, for you to use it, for you to think, for you to do anything with it. What I told you was for you to have that information, you have it in your bank.
Right.
So at some point, a situation is gonna come,
Right.
and then you're gonna have your aha moment.
Okay. So I want to open this up to the group. So we talked about that there's an impact for not, it's like a disparate situation for young people who are not getting. I think the most important thing, and it's just my opinion, but you guys tell me what you think. It's not just knowing the history, it's applying it. If you don't apply the knowledge of the history and the struggle, like what it took for us to get the right to vote, you know, how is it that the credit situation is impacted in a negative way? You know, how do we get young people to apply the history that they do know? Or should they? Well, yeah, they should. I believe they should. I think that, because everybody's looking like you're trying to
When you
process this
say-
question.
I am.
Well, I mean, when you
Yeah.
say, when you say the
Who,
history,
I am trying to process the
who are
question.
they trying to apply the history to?
Well, I think we all should apply the history. You know, even when the time is to go out and vote. You know, there's a reason why we're voting. We're not voting just to put the right person in office, but we're voting because people died.
I mean,
But
it is-
that's the problem though, because when we go out, when I want to speak on when you talk about voting and how we don't apply
Right.
history,
Right.
we vote improperly. We vote simply because we have the right and because our ancestors died for it. That should not be your sole reason for
Right.
voting.
Right.
Our ancestors died for way more than just for voting. They voted for us to be free,
Right.
and we still not there. They died for us to be free. We're still not at that place. So when we vote, we need to be putting power in our voting. You don't just go cast a ballot simply because you can. You need to be educated on the person that you're voting for. 9 times out of 10, most people, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, they don't have any type of knowledge on what the political process is. They just go out there and they cast a ballot because it's their duty. No, it's more than your duty. Your duty is to know who you're voting for. Your duty is to know the impact that it is going to have on your community. And we don't have that when we vote. We just vote so we can get the sticker and post it on Facebook.
Okay.
Exactly. Because everybody is. Because if we knew the truly importance of voting, everybody would focus on the president. Don't say them
Facts.
midterms. Them midterms. You know what I'm saying? You know, you hear me say this all the time. Them midterms of your local elections are way more important than who the president is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you don't like how your area is being policed, vote the sheriff out.
Right.
That's who picks the police officers that bust you in the head, not the president.
But
Those decisions ain't made all the way from the White House.
How many of us know who is the sheriff? Who? Because it's like you say, okay. The problem too is like even when it's time to vote, I see these people come out when it's time to vote, but where have they been?
Well, only about 20% of citizens are really out there voting, so it's not a lot of people that get out and vote.
I mean, as far as who to
yeah.
vote for, you know, what areas
So-
of the neighborhood they're going to? Who are they?
They
reaching out to?
going to where they gonna get their votes from. That's people with the money. They're not going to the hood. So
Okay,
they not.
so-
Yeah, they're not.
so-
Because those people aren't. And not saying that those people aren't voting, because older people in the hood do vote.
They do.
Older citizens do. That's who vote the most actually. But at the end of the day, of course, they're not coming down to the community. But we know they're not gonna do that. So we need to. They're not gonna come unless we supposed to go to them.
I mean, but that's what I'm saying is, you know what I'm saying is, you don't have to be educated what's going on in your community.
Right.
You live in that community.
Right.
You
You
know
see
how your
what's going
community is being policed.
Who can bring
So if
change,
you don't
right.
like how it's being policed, vote that sheriff out. It's no say, you don't need to see nothing on television. You know how your area is being policed. You know how y'all are being handled.
So
Don't
what-
say that your city, don't say who is on your city council and your state and on your state board is more important than who's in the White House
Well, yeah, yeah.
to
Because
your
that's
everyday life.
So what do you do when you don't have a choice? Like, if the only choice you have is this raggedy ass sheriff?
That's a good question.
Because
Yeah.
there's not any other options.
Right.
You know, we've all cast a ballot. We look and we're like, who we gonna pick? And then you look and you're like,
You pick the lesser evil, pretty much, right?
you don't even know who the lesser evil is.
Right.
But I mean, but
Because they're not reaching out to us. They just on the ballot.
Right.
But the thing
Right.
about it, the president, to become president, he needs millions of dollars, millions and millions of dollars to campaign.
Mhm.
You don't need that in your community. You see what's going on in your community. Speak on it. You see what's happening on your street, on your block, around your corner every day.
So Ken, too, don't you think it's important that we understand and appreciate, the sacrifices that were made for us to vote? That should be first, and then it will motivate you to go out and research the candidates so you can make the right decision on who to vote for.
Appreciate the sacrifice.
Well, that's the history,
Yeah, you should always, appreciate the history. And then from there, you should do your homework, but we should understand that it doesn't matter. Like right now, the people are not pulling together to voting like a voting block. We not
Right.
together as one group on having an agenda to vote on.
Right.
So we always by default goes to the Democratic Party as
Right.
black folks.
Right.
And with that, the Democratic Party just don't do anything for us because they automatically know, hey, we got the black folks vote
Right.
and locked.
Right.
So for one, we need to start voting with an agenda,
Right. Right.
and then regardless if it's Republican or Democrat, they need to, do whatever they need to do for whatever agenda we pushing. Right now, we don't have a solid agenda to push to either
Right.
party. So therefore, and it's no power then when we don't have a voting block where we pulling together as one collective group and have an agenda, then these people will keep doing whatever they're doing regardless.
So staying in context with that Z generation, and I'm gonna say post-millennial generation,
Yeah.
right? These folks don't understand, they don't really appreciate how important it is to vote. So us who do, we're older, we know some of the history, whether we were self-taught, we learned it in school, we know how important it is to vote. How do we get those young people, those post-millennials and those Z generation? We have a Z generation person in the studio right now. She's gonna be voting for, at least she's eligible to vote now.
Yeah,
What's gonna motivate her to get out there and get to that box?
it's nothing to motivate them right
Nothing?
now.
What about us?
Absolutely nothing.
There's
But-
nothing to motivate them because we have shown that generation that voting gets nothing done.
Y'all voting for hobby.
Yeah.
Because you said Z generation 35, so I guess.
Well, I
you
said
followed-
post-millennial
Yeah,
too.
I
So-
guess I followed that, but.
You fall in the post-millennial group.
Okay, so when like I said, we voting like it's a hobby.
Right.
So we going out, we voting, Kamala won, whatever the hell her name is, they put their chucks and pearls on.
Right, right,
They
right.
danced in the street and shit.
Right, right, right.
And where's she at? We ain't seen her. So, we see, these kids are watching us go
Right.
out every few years to vote, and then nothing's changing. Like you going out, and I mean, we don't have a good explanation behind what we're saying to them.
Right.
When they say, why should I vote? Your ancestors died to vote. Yes, but what does voting do? When you voted the last time, nothing happened. We could use, Stop 6 is a very good example
Right.
of local elections, because look what's going on in their community,
That's-
look how the projects got torn down,
Right.
and how, when Gina Bivens, I remember this on Facebook, when she presented that whole new community and whatever the hell that was with those apartments, to them. And a few people in those comments caught what she was doing. They said, this look like gentrification to me.
There you
Right.
go.
And it was so
And that's
many people
exactly
that
what
was
it
like,
was.
this is gonna better the neighborhood. And look what's going on. And look how they tore down the projects. And these overpriced houses being built over there in that area. But people didn't understand that in order for us to stop that, y'all should have got her old ass out that seat. But they didn't listen because nobody explained that's where your voting matters. That's where that vote would have been impactful, was right there in that hood.
And then not just that is, when you think about it, and we'll go to like the presidential election.
Right.
They always talk about, know what I'm saying, when they talk about voting, it's basically broken down to black and white.
Mhm.
Know what I'm saying? They talk about the black vote.
Right.
And all that.
Sound
other
effects
stuff.
are good.
They talk about all that, but know what I'm saying, know what I'm saying, there's a black community, we're a small population here in America. You have white, you have Hispanics, you have Asians,
Right.
you have Jewish. You know, I'll never see nobody on television talking about campaigning for the Jewish vote. Why is that?
Well, it all depends
They in
on
their
your
own
neighborhood, your community, you know.
But I mean, but you feel me? You don't
Yeah.
see nobody on television.
I don't
I'm
know
campaigning
what
for
they're
the
voting.
Hispanic vote. I'm campaigning for the
I don't
Asian
know what
vote.
they're, well, they do campaign for the
But I
Hispanic
mean,
vote,
it's-
but they don't,
but-
but they don't campaign. Asians don't vote like that
Yeah.
though.
But I
They
mean, but
don't.
it's-
They're in their own neighborhoods
Right.
because they get what they want done
Because they
because
got their
it's
own
power
banks.
and money.
Right.
If you go to Arlington and go down Pioneer Parkway.
I live up Pioneer. I
Mhm.
already know.
They
Ain't
work-
nothing,
they
it's a
work
big old
together.
Asian
But
community.
it's been like
And
that for
then stay
years.
on Pioneer Parkway and cross over to Grand Prairie. Same part. It's Pioneer Parkway still. All that's
Asian.
Asian. They got the bank. They got their own bank. They got their own restaurants. They got all that. And on Pioneer Parkway, it's a neighborhood behind that racetrack. Fucked up and went trick-or-treating back there. All of them was Asian. They were giving us old Asian candy, so we went on ahead and dipped. But everybody everybody that stayed over there, Asian.
Yeah.
So, okay, so going back, I'm trying to pull it back to that post-millennial and the Z generation.
Overall, they don't have a good example to go.
Well,
Exactly.
hold up. Why can't we give them one? Why can't we tell them the truth? Instead of expecting them to go and get it somewhere else. Now, we all know
Who's
someone in that
lying
age.
to
Because
them,
they-
though? Who's lying to them?
Well, it's not that they're being lied to.
They have-
They're
They
not
don't
being told.
know.
They
They
may
don't
have
know,
access
right.
to too much
They don't know.
Ain't
information.
nobody
Because
lying
you
to
got,
them.
I will put it this way, and this is no disrespect to the older generations,
My
but
generation.
yeah,
I'm gonna
y'all
give it to you.
brainwashed. Y'all,
We're brainwashed.
yes,
Wow.
yes,
Wow.
yes.
Because
y'all
y'all
teach
loud
them
about this.
respect the police. Like okay, my kids. You know, I know a lot of parents. Say for instance, your child goes to school and something happened, a teacher called. Most parents will believe that teacher before they even allow their child to explain their side of the story. When we know that the same system that created
Right.
the fucked up justice system, they create these fucked up schools. So I'm gonna let my child tell their side of the story. These teachers are clocking in and clocking out like it's a job. And so why would I not allow my child to speak their piece? Now, if my child is wrong, I'm gonna correct that. But I'd be damned if I sit up here and let you, somebody that I didn't raise, that I didn't birth, tell me about mine. And I need to sit up here and listen to my baby explain what happened. And a lot of the times I have come to find out that some of these teachers are giving these kids just generic responses
Right.
and don't care what these kids say. So this is what I'm talking about, the brainwashing of that older generation, is that we are teaching these kids behind us to be subservient and submissive to a system that cares nothing about them, because that's what y'all was doing.
So,
And
hold on,
then
let
also-
me intervene real quick, then I'm gonna pass this on, because I
I'm
have
about
to
to say-
address the issue about the generation.
And then
Go
I need to
ahead,
defend
then.
us a little
My
bit.
parents were part of Jim Crow, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know how that was brainwashed, but hold up, that was because they walked the walk, they had to walk it. And it was my generation, my parents, and my generation that was part of the civil rights movement, that brought about the Voting Rights Bill, that brought about the March on Washington back in 1968 and 63. It was my generation, right? So I'm trying to figure out how to brainwash it, because I think the teaching has
Where
to
y'all
start.
dropped the ball at when it got
Who
down
said
there?
it was dropped?
It
Wait,
was.
it was-
Wait, no.
We living it too though. The
Yeah.
generation that's coming behind, we living it too.
The problem
so
is
how did we
that you
get
guys,
to this
this is
point?
what I think, that's what I think is wrong with the younger generation. You guys didn't have the struggle. So you didn't have to struggle.
Can
The
I- can I
struggle
say-
was the struggle was
But it's-
taught.
Well, hold up.
That
The struggle-
generation sold out.
Wait, wait,
No,
no,
we were basically taught
Wow.
that if
That
we
generation
if we
sold
were
out.
basically if we were basically
Yeah.
taught,
I need to bridge the
If-
gap for
if-
y'all,
if
cause
we-
I
Somebody please
I just
bridge.
raised three
We-
kids in that
we were
generation.
we were basically taught if we followed the rules, we would get somewhere.
Okay.
We followed the rules, we
But
ain't
got
get
nowhere.
nowhere.
What you mean you ain't got nowhere? You got
We're-
pretty far.
Or
We're-
go to
we're
co-
not-
or
I
go-
ain't-
or
go
go
back
to-
to
we're-
others.
we're-
I'll
we're-
go to
we're
college,
now
you have these
voting
jobs.
over
Going to
critical
college and
rights
working at
there.
Walmart.
Maybe the generation don't appreciate what
Wait,
we've
wait,
done.
No,
Wait,
no,
wait, wait,
that's
no, no,
no,
no,
it's
no.
not
Wait,
that.
wait,
It's
wait,
not
wait,
that.
wait.
No, I won't
Can
say
I-
that.
wait,
It's
Well,
just-
Hey, first of all, I'm gonna make this disclosure. I love you guys all.
No.
Oh, we
So,
done.
listen,
We done.
Let me-
Conversation.
let me slide in here. Let me slide in here for what
Yes,
it
sir.
is.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying this. I have to back her up because I'll be honest, because it's me and you, sweetie, have had that conversation. You know what I'm saying? Lord forgive me. It's my mom still has a picture of a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus on her wall, and that shit drives me crazy every time I go.
That would
home.
drive me crazy.
But
I'm part of the generation.
My mom's
So-
71. She's 71.
Right.
I understand
Right.
because it was. My mom graduated in '68. You know what I'm saying, in Detroit. You know what I'm saying?
Graduated
Civil
from high school.
high school.
Okay.
So man, my mom turned 18 in the midst of the riots with 7 younger brothers and sisters.
Right.
So basically, when she was raising me, you know what I'm saying, she was taught survival.
Right.
So she transferred survival. So she taught me survival so I could live.
Right.
And I know what I'm saying, I passed on the knowledge I got from her. I passed on the knowledge that I gained to my children,
Right.
so they can prosper.
Okay.
So I mean, so it's not so much of a brainwashing. Every generation has access to more information.
Yep.
The difference is with the generation now, because of the internet and all that is, you know what I'm saying, when we were growing up, we could get information, you know what I'm saying, that we could, you know what I'm saying, if we didn't understand, we could talk to our parents. Now these kids have access to information. They ain't never got to talk to you. They ain't never got to talk to you, so you really don't halfway know what they don't understand.
So
if
the
you don't have-
information they're getting is someone who has a strong presence on social media can put something out there, and this generation will listen to it and buy into it as if it's real. So all of a sudden, you put the right information out there on social media, it becomes this thing that multiplies, and millions of people are speaking the same language. So yeah, if I have 5 million views, and I'm a popular person on television or somewhere, right, or a rap artist or an R&B singer, whatever it is, right, or an athlete, I put something out there, man, this generation, they fucked this up, man. They ain't give a shit. They sold us out. All of a sudden becomes viral. In about a week, there are 300,000 people. Now there's 700,000 people speaking the same shit. That's what the Republicans do. They put this information out and they keep pushing it out, and all of a sudden everybody buys into it because people will believe the lie. First, I'm not saying we didn't sell out. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying my parents, but I think my parents struggled through their day-to-day, every day, and it was a fight just to get any type of housing. Today, you guys have housing. You don't have it ain't where it should be. You know what I'm saying? You guys don't have the employment that you should have, but it's a lot better than it was back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
I
the
agree.
struggle
I
hasn't been-
won't
'cause the
say.
struggle
I
has
won't.
changed.
Okay. I won't say that y'all sold it. I just say that a lot of the older generation follow individuals that are not helping us to improve.
I agree with that. Totally
That
agree.
is the problem. And they will come together and say, oh, just like they did back.
Videos.
They'll come together and say, hey, let's put this person out. No good well, this person is not going to do anything to benefit our community. And that's the issue.
There are some sellouts. I don't like them either. You're right.
And we don't give them
also-
examples.
And when you say, and part of what you said,
Come on.
sparked me when you said it's better than what we had back then. That's the shit that's keeping us complacent by telling
That's
people it's a little bit better than what we had back then. You better be grateful for what you got. It's a little bit better than what we
Well,
had
if
then.
all
We
you know
supposed-
is what you came up with,
I
that's all you know.
understand
Right.
that.
I've seen the
but
transition.
I get that.
Right.
You've seen the
Gotcha.
transition.
Right.
But I studied the transition as well. And I understand that it's better than what we got back then. But it still ain't where we supposed to be. So we supposed to
even
keep
close.
on pushing. The revolution is supposed to continue.
we're going
So
backwards.
with that being, exactly.
We're going
So with
backwards.
that-
We are going
we are
backwards.
backwards.
Oh,
We are
I'm
backwards in a lot of ways.
Do you listen to
So-
Dr.
Go ahead.
I'm just
Okay.
saying
Yes.
the narrative, sometimes that narrative can be weaponized when we telling people to be grateful
Yeah.
for what was going on back in it ain't like it was back in the day. Yes, I am glad,
Right.
but I'm not grateful for the shit that's going on now, so therefore I need to continue on.
And this,
Go ahead, Lucky.
and I was gonna say this, no saying what she said this, no saying this. When you say things have gotten better, Do you listen to Dr. Claude Anderson?
No.
He
I mean, it's not I won't, I haven't.
But I mean, he does a lot of things on
I've
YouTube, and
listened
one of
to
the things he talks about, he says, financially, the black community, we're in no better shape right now
Based
than
on
the
the
day
numbers you're
than
right.
the day before slavery ended.
Right.
We're in no better shape financially. I'm talking in terms of the
Oh,
amount
sure.
of wealth we control in America.
Right.
He said we're in no better shape today than we were the day
Exactly.
before slavery ended.
You know what's
But-
interesting? I'm
We don't
sorry,
own
But
anything.
we're still not helping each other financially. If you, I mean, it's still prices are expensive, and then people still expect you to pay. I mean, we have a lot of work
Right.
to go,
Right.
and we're gonna have to come together when it comes to financial.
Right.
We can't all be independent and
I agree.
expect us
I
to
agree.
reach that goal. And that's the problem. A lot of people, when people get to that level,
Right.
they're trying to sustain it. They don't want to go back.
And
So,
one more
go
thing,
ahead.
one more thing is, we're not giving the younger generation a good example to go off of, cause they saying that the voting is not working. They're saying that we put Obama in office, we put, Joe Biden in office, and they saying when we went out, they said, hey, go out there and vote, and then we go out to vote, we're not getting nothing in return. We're not showing them that voting actually works in our favor, in our group's favor, because we still not getting
It works
things.
when we go out and do it.
Yeah,
Right.
so they like, well, okay, why should we go out and vote? And then when y'all went out and vote, y'all didn't even get any benefits. So we gotta give them examples.
So let's stay right there for a second. Okay, so when we're picking a candidate, right, that we want to represent us, no matter whether it's state, local government, or in the federal government, right? When we're picking one who's going to speak for me. You know, who's going to bring those resources to me, to my house, to my doorstep. We want that, right? So we go out and do our research. But if we don't know who they are, you know what I'm saying? It's not only that, but it's the accountability piece. Because just because they got in there and we don't like
That's
what they're
another thing.
doing, how are we holding them accountable? Are we teaching people to hold those politicians accountable? Because we do have a right to do that.
The number one, go back to the beginning. We not picking them.
Thank you.
We're not choosing them.
Thank you.
Somebody else is choosing them, and then while the picking process is being done,
Right.
we're not even a part of those processes. We at home watching Love and Hip Hop.
Totally
Then
get it.
when it's time, and then we not doing the research on the candidates. We go in, and then after that's done, see the thing about it is we get fire under us for the voting part,
Right.
and that's where the fire starts,
Right.
and that's where the fire ends. And after that, the fire is gone. So people do not, what black people understand is that we don't have room or time for complacency. We
Totally
have
agree with
never
that.
had that as a people. We do not have time to be complacent or comfortable in America.
We're prone to
It is.
complacency.
We
Black
are,
folks
we get very complacent.
Because
We got complacent with Obama.
One, because, I'm going to cut you off, but for one, I feel like I'm supposed to be just asking questions. I feel like I'm part of the show. But anyway, so complacency is in our DNA, unfortunately. It is, because too many things distract us. I had a conversation with our manager, right, early today. And I was talking to her about someone else who's working with us. And as I'm talking to this person, all they talk about is what the problem is, right? Well, I'm solution driven. I have to be solution driven. I can't be a businessman and say, well, everything is a problem, because guess what happens if you keep saying it's a problem? It's a problem. When you say, well, here's the issue, and that's why I said this is an issue, but this is a plan of action to correct it. We can talk about what's happening with voting. We can talk about what's happening with the lack of history being taught to our young people, right? But what are we doing about it? Because
Exactly.
each one of us can pull one, reach one, teach one, right? We can pull one and start having a conversation. I'm waiting for either one of us to pull that young lady who's 18, who actually said she don't know a lot about black history. She's black, she looked black to me, right? She's part of the same trauma that we're gonna be dealing with moving forward through this society. So one of us should pull her aside and say, hey, let's set up a time and talk. Because she may not be interested in it, and there's reasons why. But if we can say how important it is, at least to learn this, how we got to this. Now, I say progress, yeah. We've gone from a rotary dialing phone to here, but a lot of people don't know there were black people making that design and this stuff.
Fact.
She don't know that stuff, but she's using it every day.
But I mean,
The internet.
But the issue.
Internet as
The
well.
internet,
I'm sorry,
black
go
man.
ahead.
But the issue, but like, you know what I'm saying, all the accomplishments of my list. Well, y'all don't know this. My daughter was junior, senior. She was president of NAACP at Sam Houston State University.
Wow.
She was part of the Black Caucus. She student council. She did all that while she was there.
That's what's
But
up.
but the thing about it was, you know what I'm saying, it wasn't Black history. It was a lifestyle. Like it's, you know what I'm saying, it's
Wow.
you know what I'm saying, all
Wow,
my
yeah.
books sit
Yeah.
in my living room right
Yeah.
next to my television.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was a lifestyle.
So why is daddy
it was
religious?
every day.
There
It
gotta
was
be
a
something
way
in his
of
book
life.
my
It
daddy
wasn't
like
no
it. Right.
so it wasn't no pulling her aside talking. It was a way of life. It was,
She
you
was
know what I'm saying?
curious.
We talked. She didn't have a choice.
Ah,
She
okay.
didn't have a choice. Kind of like this. Do you remember your music taste when you was growing up?
Yeah.
You didn't have music taste. Your music taste was whatever your parents listened to.
Facts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it, you know what
I
I'm saying?
kind
So
of
it
threw it
was.
off, but yeah.
Yeah, so it's.
I
so-
mean,
so-
you can hang with your friends. Yeah.
So for me, you know what I'm saying, for me, you know what I'm saying, it was black history is black life.
Fact.
There is
Right.
no history to it, it's
Exactly.
black life. So
Exactly.
that means it was
Preach.
every day. I lived it every day. My daughter saw it every day. She had access to it every day.
So it's
It
really
wasn't-
the culture then, right? It's
No,
the
for me, it's
culture.
way of life. No culture,
But
way
culture
of
is-
life.
culture is
I
a way
mean,
of-
it's,
you know,
put it
yeah.
like it's a fuck it. It's a religion for me.
Gotcha.
But
It's
some
really-
people don't live blackness like that.
I
Most black people don't live blackness
Yes.
Because we have,
like that.
in some
Because
ways,
we have to
adapt to the
code
environment.
we have to code switch, and
We do.
that's understandable. I
Right.
get that. I work at a call center. If anybody in here in this room code switch,
But you
I
code
do
switch with your
8
family.
hours a day.
We
I
should
code
do
switch
this.
to the real
We
people
have
when I
to
get
do
there.
this.
But see,
Right.
that's no difference for me. I code switch at work.
Right.
When I clock out, it's a real nigga. You ain't getting nothing else.
No.
'Cause I ain't got time to be doing. I can't code switch 4 different goddamn ways.
And you know
I
something?
can only.
No,
If
no,
you
but
were
one,
not
too.
truly outspoken,
I got
you
two
wouldn't be here
switches.
to the show today.
No, but
Honestly, if you weren't truly outspoken, you wouldn't be here to the show today. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
And listen, I want to get rid of the code switch, and it's not code switching. It's dealing with your environment. I do not talk to my children the same way I talk to my friends, the same way I
Right.
talk to my mama,
Right.
the same way I talk to my boss.
Right.
There is no code switching.
Right.
It is me adjusting to the environment that I am in.
Right, right.
So you're okay. So you taught your child history. It was a way of life. In my family, it was a way of life. My mom took me to museums and everything, and you know, taught me about history. But you're talking about reaching out to kids who parents aren't
I'm
able
just
to teach
saying,
them how.
you know-
and so that what is the solution to reach out to those people who are listening to what rappers are doing, or you know?
I don't
the
have
main
all the
conversation
answers,
is,
but I know if I
baby-
want to do something as an individual, say I'm a person who has no knowledge of nothing, I just have my own personal history.
Right,
I can share that.
right.
You know, what it was like for me growing up, you know, insert in a major city, you know what I mean? What was it like being in that community where I knew that these other people had things and I didn't, and we couldn't get it? It's not that we didn't have access. Now there's access. So the access you have, and let me explain how this came about. There were some things that happened in the past that allowed these things to happen. Now we can go to any restaurant, we can go to any school, you know what I mean? We're not being judged by the color of our skin. So
Can I-
that is
That's
something.
not going on.
Who is it?
I mean,
we
can I
still
say-
being
I was
judged
saying,
On
who
a
is
different
it?
level though, on a different level though.
But can I say one thing? Kim?
What different level?
There was no law saying you can't go to that school because of your color.
That may
So
be
it's-
true, but does it
Right.
benefit our children to go to those schools because they are still being discriminated against?
Of course, discrimination's gonna be there.
But the bad
Yeah.
thing about that is the very bad thing about what's going on now versus what was going on back then.
Mm-hmm.
You knew. And see, now we so naive to the fact because we can go into those places and we put our babies in those places. We thinking when what they call school to prison pipeline. A lot of us don't understand that exists, and we don't understand that they criminalizing our children because we think that white teacher is our friend when she really
From
is
the
our
white
enemy.
bus to the
And
white
that's the part where you say, well, now you can go to any school. It may be a problem with you going to that school because now when Johnny does something,
Right.
Johnny don't get in trouble. But when Kendrick does something, Kendrick got suspended for doing the same thing Johnny just did, and Kendrick mama went home and beat his ass instead of going back to that school to fight
So
for her
what's
son.
the
Okay.
solution?
But overall,
How
he's
many-
but he's saying is, I get what you're saying. Overall, it's only we can talk about the issues and the problems for so long. We gotta become solution based at some
Yes.
point.
Yes.
So the solution is we gotta start organizing. You know,
Yes.
we've been out organized. We gotta show them, okay, we gotta pool our votes together, regardless who they put in front of us.
Right.
We gotta get organized and have a voting block.
Yes.
and have an agenda with that voting block.
Right.
So regardless of who they put in office, they gotta still bend the knee to our agenda.
Right.
So that's just one example of what the possible solution could possibly be.
Well, another solution is like other cultures, they meet, black parents with kids, they need to meet outside of school.
Yep.
And form some type of group, some type of either Facebook or something where they can go and they can have other kids meet with other kids and learn about our history that they're not learning in school.
Right.
Like, we need to be organized, not just in school, but outside of school. I understand a lot of parents, parents will take their parents take their kids quick to go to a football practice, go to soccer practice, go basketball practice. You hear them, they know all
And
about.
I think those are distractions in some.
There are
I mean,
distractions,
yeah.
but
They
how
don't
many
have to
kids?
be.
How many kids?
No,
use-
you're right, it doesn't have to be.
But how many parents that say, I have a group that my kids go to where we focus on Black history.
I mean, I'm sure they exist, but we probably don't have. we don't
But
have
the
very
point that
much.
we don't even know,
Right.
we have to, I'm sure by research you could probably find some
Right.
out there, but the point that is not like, everyone's like, yeah, my child is part of this such group,
Right.
And they've been lying for years, so it's not nothing new.
So,
Yes.
go ahead, Lee.
I was gonna say this, let's get away from the church method. What I mean by the church method is you saving the whole community, you saving the whole street.
You mean the
Hey,
Christian way?
no, the church
It's
method.
not just Christian.
No, but,
Right,
but
but
you know what I'm
I'm
talking about, the church method
Yeah.
is, no saying, you individual, you saving the whole neighborhood and your children are running wild. No, I'm saying this, when you saying pulling them in, no, I'm saying this, teach your kids,
Right.
teach your nephews, teach your nieces. No, I'm saying, let's start with the kids that are related to you.
Yes.
No, I'm saying the ones that God
And
gave
eventually,
you,
when they
gave
go out to
you
the
as an
street, they'll
attachment.
talk to each other.
Yeah, no, I'm
And
saying
then
this,
that's true.
Yeah, start from your house and work your way out. I love that song, Michael Jackson, we say, I'm starting with the man in the mirror.
Yes.
So when he look in the mirror,
Yes.
don't say this. Don't say this. Your kid. Don't say whatever's in your house.
Yeah.
When you look in the mirror, that's what you're gonna see. Whatever's in your house. So let's fix our house. Let's fix our kids. Let's get our kids under control.
Right.
And what I mean, and also what I mean by that is, don't say this. Like one of the things I used to do with my children when we were younger, I'd like take them out to dinner.
Right.
Know what I'm saying? I have a talk with them. Know what I'm saying? How was your day?
Right.
Know what I'm saying? Like beginning of the school year, what are all your teachers' names? Do you have any friends in your class?
Right.
Know what I'm saying? What are your friends' names? And know what I'm saying? Each and every class, know what I'm saying this. I basically know what I'm saying this. Get in depth and talk to them about their life and what's going on with their life.
Right.
Know what I'm saying?
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have talked to parents, I don't have any kids of my own, but I've talked to parents who are very active in the school district.
Right.
And it's like they don't even have, it's hard for them to figure out what to do with the situation
Yeah.
that's going on, because they can see that there are Black students that are being discriminated against, or they can have the same issue as a white student, but the Black student's going to get expelled from school
Right.
versus what's going to happen to a white student. So there's a lot of parents that are out there that are that are looking for the solution. But what is the solution when everyone you go to is against you?
I think knowing what your
Yeah.
rights are is important to know. You got to know what your rights are so you can fight when you realize they're being violated. You know what I mean? Then, of course, if I came over and touched a woman in the wrong way, she know I don't have a right to touch her without her permission. So she automatically goes into a mode, okay, that's wrong, I know how to fight that, right? So same thing with everything else that's happening in the school system, whether it's in employment or anything else. We got to know our rights.
Kentu had the solution last week. It's just not an overnight solution.
on,
It's a
Kentu.
solution we got to
Oh, I
grow
did.
to.
Come on, Kentu.
You remember what she said?
I don't know.
Was it a real solution? No, I'm kidding. It wasn't.
No, it was pull our
Okay.
kids out.
Oh,
yeah.
pull your kids out. Oh, okay.
That's not an overnight solution though, because and the reason why I say it's not an overnight solution because it's coming from a single parent.
Right.
I can't homeschool my kids. Somebody got to feed us, so I can't
Understood.
homeschool.
Understood.
And I don't have a community, where I
Support.
can send my.
Yeah.
I don't have a community support that I can
Right.
send my child to be homeschooled. But overall, and maybe it's 10, 20 years down the line, but in real talk, that's the overall solution because.
No, I can't do that.
I'm just being real. A lot of parents are already doing that. I'm just being real. We've been fighting the system. Black folks been fighting.
Since we've been here.
The system, white folks ain't changing. We the one people that need to change. We keep telling them to change. It needs to be us and just go build our own shit.
What about value? Because we
we get
bring
some stats for
value.
that.
We bring value. We can make an applause, but we bring value to this country. We know that, right?
Yeah.
When we
A
realize,
lot of value.
especially when it comes to finance,
The overall
when
value.
it comes to
Right.
money, and that's what this country is run on, money, right?
Yeah.
So when we start putting, I hear all the time, people tell me, oh, we don't got to get our black dollar and do this and do that. And it's all, to me, it's all fluff.
It is.
Because nobody's doing nothing behind it. They going back and still go back to the same community, doing the same shit they've always done, kissing up.
Spending
those
white
people.
money after you gave my
But
yours.
this collaboration show right here, honestly, because we are the media. Believe it or not, we are the media. It's not just by name. We are the media. We provide information. We bring like-minded people together and have conversations. We're not scripted here. You know what I'm saying? So we take this show and we put it out there and say, hey, this is what we're talking about. So you want to have a conversation, come to the table. And that's what it's about. Being at that table. I've been asked to jump on projects or be a part of projects.
Yeah.
I said, well, am I at the table when they're making the decisions? Like, you know, if I'm not at the table when decisions are made, I don't want no parts of it. I'll see it when it's done. And maybe if it's something I want to be a part of, I might go and join, I might go participate, but don't ask me to be a part of a project, the building part of it, I can't be part of the decisions. So, because that's what we need to do. We need to be part of the decision making. We need to put ourselves, but you gotta
We need to make
qualify
our
to
own
be at that
decisions.
table too.
Damn, fuck that table. We need to
Hey,
build
build
our
our
own table.
We don't need to be
That's what
trying to
I'm
get a
saying.
seat.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but we gotta start somewhere. So we're gonna start somewhere. We got a table here. This table's already built. I'm sorry, I bought it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But this table was built. So right now, we're having a
This
conversation.
table ain't big enough, we can make it bigger. How
Well,
about
right
that?
now, and you'd be surprised at what we can do, just the five of us alone.
Yep.
We can start a movement, you know what I'm saying? And it really don't take all five of us. But we gotta be organized. We gotta bring, no, it's gonna take more than that. But we gotta bring people in, like-minded people, we gotta recruit, you know what I'm saying?
That's the key.
We gotta
Like-minded.
Well, we gotta find them, you know
I
what I'm
mean,
saying?
and
we
they
obviously are the right-
exist.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
the problem sometimes is we get delusional because we get disappointed when
That's
other
the
black
distraction.
people are not
That's the
doing what we doing.
Where's
We
our
gotta leave them
resilience?
niggas behind.
But the
Resilience
crazy
is in our
part-
DNA.
But the crazy part about it is,
Yes.
we know how to come together. And the reason why I say we know how to come together, because if you look at like Germany, when you go to Germany, like back in the day, like in the 80s, when the military go to Germany, there wouldn't be a whole lot of blacks in Germany. So all the black families would come together.
Right,
Literally, they would come together and make a community.
right.
By
And know what I'm
force.
saying? They still do that.
Yeah.
And they still, because they understood, know what I'm saying, this. We the only us here. So, know what I'm saying, whether or not we blood, we family. Know what I'm saying? So we understand that. It's just,
It's harder than
we
that.
let
You gotta
we
be-
let the we
yeah.
let the Americanization
We
Right.
comfortable.
Yeah.
of our life, know what I'm saying?
So
Where
I'm
is-
glad you mentioned that, the Americanization of America, right? So, okay, think about it like this. Let me ask you guys this question. Was Jim Crow worse than slavery? Think
I
about
can't
it.
speak
Yes.
on that because I ain't lived through neither.
I wouldn't
Yes.
either, none of us
Yeah.
did.
But it is. I've
No, hold
done-
up, why?
I've done a lot of research in this. While slavery was bad, the black and white relationship didn't get contentious until Jim Crow. I mean,
Preach, preach.
slavery was bad.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about this. I mean, the slaughtering, the hanging, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Most of that stuff took place during Jim Crow.
Yeah.
That's when the relationship between blacks and whites became adversarial.
Yep.
during
Because at
Jim
that
Crow.
point, black
It-
people were stepping out of line to them. So, and when slavery, I see
Well,
what you're
it's-
saying,
but it
slavery
didn't-
kind of, that's your place.
You're
But then not
correct.
just that,
Yeah.
it was the mental, it was
Yep,
the
the
mental
That's it.
illness started. I'm gonna say this.
Oh, yeah.
The mental illness of slavery started kicking in whites, and what I mean by that is when you look at it, after slavery, they talk about a lot of the slave plantation owners. They didn't have slaves to take care of the land no more. A lot of them fell into depression and killed themselves.
Yes.
So Jim Crow was actually a manifestation of the mental illness of slavery and white folks.
See, this is the type of shit me and Lucky talk about. Okay, so look, check this out. Now, I'm being honest. Now, we talk about talking history now, right? Okay, yes, you're absolutely right. Jim Crow was 10 times, and it was only about 40, 60 years. It was a lot worse than, I'm telling you, and we had laws now that's starting to
Protecting
protect us. But we had other people that's fighting against those laws. So they weren't fighting us, they was fighting against the laws that allowed us. So think about it like this. Think about the mentality of what was going on with the two people. Let's talk about the slave. After the 13th Amendment, we were set free. We were thrown out into a world that we knew nothing about. Now we're saying, go fend for yourself. Go figure it out on your own. And half of us had mental illness coming into this after, in 1865 and 1866. We didn't know what the fuck was going on. So for about 10 years, from 1867 to 1877, we were being elected in South Carolina and in Georgia and in Texas. We were taking state houses, and guess what? KKK started, and they formed a militia.
Yep.
And said, we're going to pull them black motherfuckers out
And
that
drug them
courthouse
out the White House.
and burnt them at the stake
On
in
the
front of
White
the
House
courthouse.
lawn.
The White House lawn.
Oh, yeah.
But see, this is history no one is talking about. Think about how that makes you feel just to hear that.
They
little
talk
bit of
about it in New
information.
York.
You know what I'm saying? So we're talking about radicalizing the information that we put out. I'm talking about being real fucking radical. And you know how to put it out to people? With this media program.
We need to have a firestorm with
See,
this.
that brief history that you were talking
That-
about after the Reconstruction period, when we had a lot of elected officials in Congress and senators and black people, that should let us know that it was black. We had black people, more black people elected back then than ever before, and
Buying land.
And America showed you what they think about us as a group. At the blink of an eye, they can change
So it
laws
makes you
against
think we should be coming together at all times.
at
And
all
that-
But we're not.
times.
And the key to that is I don't know what they had back then, but that's why it's important. Like you have groups that talk about arming yourself,
Yeah.
because when they come to slaughter us. So you
Yes.
better have somebody at the door ready to slaughter them before
Yeah.
they get up in there.
But what's
And
our
that-
biggest defense? Our mouth.
Our mouth, yeah.
That's
I
great.
came from a city where if you didn't have a mouth, you're gonna get your ass whipped. So most of the time, 80% of the time, you can talk
Right.
yourself out of a fight. You know what I'm saying? But you gotta say the right words. You gotta be bigger than the person that's trying to attack you. And it's just with words. And that's power. You outthink your opponent. You know what I'm saying? If you know where they're weak because they can't handle the word. I'm gonna say this real quick, I'm gonna let you go ahead. When I first moved out, I was in an apartment up in Roanoke. I didn't know what the fuck Roanoke is, way back in the Hicks, right? I was going out there playing basketball. I'm not a strong basketball player, but I can shoot some hoops. You know what I'm saying? So I'm out there with these young 18, 19-year-old high school kids, 6'6", 6 foot, they hitting from all over the court. I'm running up and down, they call me geriatrics. So let me tell you, because I knew one thing, I had intelligence. So one of the guys, his girlfriend came up with their girlfriend, you know what I'm saying? Did I tell you the story?
No,
So
but I already know what
these
you're
guys are
talking.
wearing me out. I'm out of breath and say, look at you, you can't play, you're tired, you're tired. Man, go sit down and drink some water before you pass out. All this shit. The ball went over to them. I go over there, I grab the ball, all I said was, your man can play basketball. She started saying, she smiled. He had no idea what I said to her. He was freaked out. His game was fucked up for the rest of the game. And I played on that shit, man. I said, yeah, you better shoot that man. Make that shot, man. Make that shot. I'm talking shit. Everybody know me. I'm competitive. I'm going to talk shit when I'm be playing cards. I'm talking shit. Threw his whole game off. This guy was killing me. It was 3-on-3. This guy was killing. We the guys. We the older guys. They the young people. It was blowing us out. We just started hitting points because it took him out of his game. I can see his whole move. Then he go over there yelling at his girl because what the fuck you say to him? She was like, I ain't got time for you. And she left.
Oh wow.
His game was fucked up. I ain't did nothing wrong, but because I knew he was young, you know what I'm saying? So fine, I can't beat you physically, but I'm gonna outsmart you. So anyway, I told that story for a reason. I can't remember why. But anyway,
Yeah,
so I'm going to-
You talking about outsmarting your
Yeah,
opponents?
that's it.
Yeah.
So, we got to be smart. We got to be smart, but we got to use the tools that we have, and the tools we have, and I keep pushing this, I'm going to keep saying this because, I went to school for media. I went to school for communications. And I understand effective communication. We all do that all the time. We have to effectively communicate to get our message across. If we want to be heard, we got to say the right words. We got to say it with the right tone. We got to know who our audience is. And then we got to know our enemies are too. So we got to know how to defend against those people. And I think fewer words has more power than a whole lot of shit. You know what I'm saying? It just moves mountains. But go ahead, Lucky, you got to say something? No? Okay, so look, we're going to close this show out because I think we out to our last couple seconds. Yeah, our producers telling us get the fuck off the air. Okay, so, something, this was great. This was great. I hope you guys got something out of this. I did.
Yo,
Definitely.
man, look, been that far already.
Yeah, it went fast. I didn't think I was gonna be talking this much, but I guess I fooled myself. I knew I was. But I'm glad you allowed me to be a part of this, man. This is great. You guys both have two great shows. You can see their shows here on KMWI Media, Wednesday night and on Tuesday night. So with that, without further ado, you guys any closing remarks? Oh, you know something? I'm sorry. I need to go back to something because Sweetie C has something she want to bring up that was important. Let me pass it on to you.
We don't have time.
You have time? You sure? Come on.
Okay.
We don't want to hear.
Okay, so This is a situation that happened in Fort Worth, so I kind of want to see what everyone thought about this. It was a gentleman, Malik Austin. He went to a school meeting to address critical race theory. He said, for those who got an issue with this critical race theory, equity is something I fought for my children. Austin said to the meeting attendees, how dare you come out from here and talk about the things that my daddy and my grandparents went through, the lynching, the oppression, Jim Crow. My kids are still being afflicted by this. How dare you come off in here and challenge me on critical race theory? So he goes on to say, look at the word racism. This is something deliberately done to people of African descent to shackle us down. This hate, fear-mongering ain't gonna work no more. Austin added, it's over with. We are not our ancestors. I got over 1,000 soldiers ready to go. We're not the board, said one parent, which Fox News identified as Holly Clemens, a stay-at-home mother of 3. Y'all are supposed to be taken care of. So basically, the brother went out and he spoke on behalf of critical race theory.
Right.
But the issue that white people are having is the fact that he said, it's over with. We are not our ancestors. I got over 1,000 soldiers ready to go.
Now we know, cause when you said the brother's name and Kentu had look, we know that brother.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can imagine. Oh shit.
The fire
I can
breaks out.
imagine how he was talking. Cause with Kentu face, I know him by a different name, but it was Kentu face, and I started thinking. I said, he's gonna be, yeah. So okay, so
Right.
now that is, I can see how they can take that a little, cause I don't know if there was some little old cookie baking housewives in there. Okay, that's what I'm imagining. You said something about homeschool, but somebody homeschooled their kid. I said them some Betty Crocker brows up in there.
Right.
So yeah, I can see where they would be nervous, but I can feel the anger too.
I feel his anger, but what I'm saying
Wrong
is,
crowd.
it's basically wrong crowd. I can
Wrong
feel his
crowd.
passion,
Yeah.
and I just don't appreciate how Fox News is trying to take it over, like trying to make it seem like we fixing to go.
Well, when you know your enemy, you knew they were going to do something.
Right.
So we just prepare ourselves, embrace ourselves, and ready
Yeah.
to respond.
My question is, what are these 1,000 soldiers?
Right.
I'm gonna be honest. We don't have 1,000.
We don't have
We don't
that.
have 1,000 soldiers.
But
in
if
Fort Worth.
if you come across, like 10 people can look
But
like
I mean,
10,000. You know,
have you seen 300?
right. Yeah.
It mattered.
Right. It didn't matter.
Yeah, 300 that was about that life.
Well, we ain't got that in Fort
Yeah,
Worth.
exactly. We ain't got that.
I mean, but it
Hell,
don't matter if you got one.
You got
It's
one.
about that life.
It's
It don't.
about-
All you need
so
is
we
one
understand-
live wire.
That's true. All you
one.
need is one,
All
but
you
that
need
one
is
gotta be strategic. That one gotta be ready.
But I mean,
so
My thing is, we can't be barking about we got 1,000 soldiers.
exactly.
ready
And
when
if we ain't got no bite, if you ain't about that action,
Yeah.
then keep your
Well,
mouth
maybe
closed.
that was a call to action. Okay, look, physically I'm one person, but y'all people, y'all get behind me behind this shit. I'm trying to do something here. Y'all come on, get behind me. I'm calling y'all now. Come on in. That's a call to action.
But
But
my
it-
question
but
is it for critical race theory?
I want to know why we
necessarily.
I'm just
and because I know we gotta close,
Yeah.
but I want to end by really saying this, because it really, when they start talking about taking critical race theory out of school,
Right.
we gotta understand as black people. First of all, they ain't never really taught our kids shit.
That's
You know,
what
that's-
So why are
that's
we
my
so
point.
why? It's like it's fake outrage.
Yeah.
Why are we jumping up? Oh, they taking it out of the schools. They not even teaching your kids the basics.
But I mean, but this-
So what does it matter? Teach them at home.
Right.
We already know how they are. Why do we be acting shocked?
And then
I
they
mean-
keep using that word theory. You know, I'm hung up on that
It's
word
not
theory.
theory.
Exactly, it's not a theory, these are facts.
It implies an unproven fact.
Exactly.
What happened
We
to
already
us
know the shit
is,
happened.
it's factual and actual. So they can get rid of it.
I
I don't want them
understood.
teaching my children no theories about being black.
Right.
I don't want no white people teaching my kids no theories
They
about
need
being
to-
Even when
They
they
need to
were
read that.
teaching our children history, they were watering it down. When I was in the
'Cause it
seventh
was a
grade,
theory.
they had these. They
Right.
they took every seventh grade history book and put index cards over these paragraphs because it
Wow.
talked too much about the bad part of slavery.
Right.
We had to kind of get
That's
them mugs
crazy.
lifted up to
I'm
read
glad I grew
it.
up
Me
where I grew
too.
up.
I'm
Because
telling
we got
I mean,
all
I'm
I'm
that.
telling you.
Have you seen the book? You forget the book Fahrenheit 454.
Right.
It talks about a dystopic society
Yeah.
where they destroyed all the books.
Yeah.
And if you get caught with a book
Yeah.
learning, you will get put in prison.
Book of Eli kind of tells you something about that too. They're talking about the Bible. But anyway, go ahead. You gotta say
So
something.
I was just gonna say, I appreciate the brother's passion.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He's passionate.
Yeah, I appreciate his passion. I just feel like, Fox News is taken out of context.
Well,
Like,
you know-
they just
They-
doing too
yeah.
much.
They-
shouldn't-
They just
as
doing
usual.
too much.
As usual.
Yeah.
I feel about Fox, we shouldn't have too much expectation of them
Right.
doing what they're gonna do. So just knowing they're there, just know how to respond, that's all. So with that being said, anybody else any positive closing remarks before we close out?
Public Enemy made an album in the 80s called Fear of a Black Planet.
Okay, we gotta go check that one out. Anything else? Okay, so we can look forward to seeing you guys. In case we don't see you guys before the holiday, have a safe and wonderful Thanksgiving next week. If you celebrate it, if you don't, just be happy with your family and your friends and people you care about.
Just
That's
remember
what's
at
up.
that dinner, they killed all the Indians.
I remind people of
That
that
was
every
good.
day.
Just remember they killed them all.
Okay, with
They
that,
fed them and killed them.
with that fact, that's that theory, that's fact. Okay, so we will see you guys next time after the holidays, hopefully. So be safe and stay tuned and look out for more good stuff coming from KMW Media.
That's what's up.
Okay.
Hey.
But they did kill all the Indians.
Oh, boy, that was exhausting.
But they did kill
That
them
was
all.
good. You guys did a whole hour. You guys are non-stop.
Was it good?
That was good.
You guys were
got
good?
a lot of
How'd
good
you
clips
feel?
out of there.
Was it good?
What did you hear that
We're
you
gonna, we're gonna
take back
test
with
it
you? What is
now.
something
Where did
that
you get